Cut the dead weight, Declan said, tapping the screen. Start with Mom. My name projected behind him didn't even shake. Someone coughed. Someone laughed. Then the others joined in like it was brave. Like humiliating your mother made you sharp. Strategic. I sat at the end of the table. Lower chair, no clicker, no slides, just a notebook with my husband's initials pressed into the leather. Robert used to sit here beside me. Now his son stood at the front like he'd built the company from bone, not inheritance. Declan clicked again. Another slide. Legacy roles, outdated board seats, advisory titles with no measurable output. He didn't say my name again. He didn't need to. I closed the notebook, slid the pen in, folded my hands. No one stopped me when I stood. My chair scraped loud across the wood floor. I could feel Declan watching, waiting for a reaction, but I didn't give him that. I walked out without a word. My heels hit tile, then glass, then the quiet elevator. No one followed. The ride down was smooth, polished steel walls. My reflection didn't blink. Outside, the rain had stopped. I walked to the car Robert used to drive. The valet recognized me, but looked uncertain, like asking if I was still allowed to park here. I didn't speak. He handed me the keys. I drove without the radio, past the warehouse he and I opened 29 years ago, past the original brick office where I used to type purchase orders, past the corner diner where we'd eat pie and plan expansion strategies on paper napkins. It was all still there. It just didn't belong to me anymore. At the house, the lights were off. Pamela's SUV wasn't in the driveway. I unlocked the door, took off my shoes, walked into the kitchen and poured myself a cup of cold coffee from the pot that hadn't been used since yesterday. Still bitter, I stood at the window and stared out at the yard. The grass was too long. Robert would have noticed that. He died 3 months ago, quietly. One moment, breathing, the next, gone. No fight. No farewell. Just a silent, final breath in the bedroom he built. The night of his funeral, Declan told me he'd take care of everything. "You've done enough, Mom," he said. Like that was a kindness. But I didn't cry at the boardroom table today. I didn't scream. I didn't beg. Because this wasn't the first time my name had been erased. The first time was the minute Robert's will was read and Declan smiled. The second was when they sent me an email revoking my access card. The third was today. I rinsed the cup, didn't dry it, set it in the rack upside down. Then I walked into Robert's office. His chair still creaked. His notebook still lined the shelf. And in the bottom drawer where he kept spare pens and old bank envelopes, I found the file. The envelope had my name on it. Not Mom, not board member. My name, in Robert's handwriting. I didn't open it yet. I pulled the desk lamp closer, sat down, and started reading. I read until the lines blurred. Robert's handwriting had never changed. Still sharp. Still slanted right. He'd written in block letters at the top, only to be opened if they turn on you. Not if he does. He knew. I put the papers back in the envelope, locked it in the desk drawer, took the key and slipped it into my pocket. Then I stood, walked out of the office, turned off the light. Upstairs, the bedroom was untouched, his side of the bed still tucked with the same precision he liked. I hadn't slept on that side in 3 months. I still couldn't. The closet held his shirts, the ones he never got to pack for retirement. His watch was still on the dresser next to the ring he stopped wearing after the swelling started. I didn't cry. I changed into a loose sweater, pulled my hair back, and went downstairs again. The kitchen window was cracked. A breeze moved through it like it belonged more than I did. I poured the rest of the coffee from the pot. Cold, bitter. I drank it anyway. The clock blinked 11:12 a.m. I hadn't eaten. I wasn't hungry. I sat at the small kitchen table, the one Declan refused to move after Robert passed. Dad always sat there, he said, but he never did again. Neither did I. Not until now. I sat, hands wrapped around the mug. No sound, no apology. No door opening to say they'd made a mistake. Just the refrigerator humming and the faint tick of the wall clock. I stayed like that for an hour. Maybe 2. Then I stood. Put the mug in the sink. Didn't wash it. In the hallway, his coat still hung where he left it. I touched the collar. Still smelled like the cologne he refused to stop using. Smells like a boardroom he used to joke. The coat stayed. I walked past it. Back in his office, I opened the drawer again. Took out the envelope. Sat. I made a list. Not on paper. In my head. Names, dates, account numbers. Clauses we wrote together when we were still cautious. Documents I hadn't touched in years. Then I opened my laptop. Logged into the shared folder we used for travel planning. It was still there. Labeled Personal Private. I clicked. Inside were scanned copies of every company charter revision we'd ever filed. I copied the entire folder to an external drive. Then I opened my drawer and pulled out the red spiral notebook I hadn't used since Robert's diagnosis. I turned to a fresh page, and I started writing again. I tapped the card twice. The scanner beeped, then blinked red. The cashier, maybe 19, shifted uncomfortably. "You have another form of payment?" I pulled the card back, checked the chip. "Try it again." She did. Still nothing. "That's the company card," I said, half to her, half to myself. She gave a practiced smile. "It happens." I reached into my bag, pulled out my personal card, and paid. Quiet. Small. Nothing dramatic, but my hand shook. I walked the groceries out myself. The sun burned hot through my sleeves. I didn't remember driving home. Just the feeling in my chest, tight, hollow, angry. In the driveway, I sat in the car with the engine off and read the label on the grocery bag. Then again, just to keep my hands still. Inside, I unpacked. Eggs, milk, spinach bread, nothing fancy. Just enough to avoid questions from anyone watching. I opened my laptop. The company website used to have my name listed under Founder and Legacy Advisor. I checked. Now it read, Founder Robert Ashford. CEO Declan Ashford. Board advisor vacant. I clicked on my profile. 404. Page not found. I opened my email. The company domain had logged me out. I opened the finance app tied to the corporate account. Password error. I reset it. Got an alert. This user is no longer authorized. I stared at the screen, then closed the laptop. I stood in the kitchen gripping the counter. My mouth was dry. My coffee mug sat beside the sink, still stained from the morning. I didn't call anyone. I didn't text Declan. I didn't ask for clarification. He was drawing a line, so I drew one too. I went back upstairs. Opened the filing cabinet. Found the manila folder labeled Secondary Holdings. I flipped through. Some old, some obsolete. But 2 stood out. 1 trust in my name. 1 corporate fallback clause notarized and never filed. I took both. I printed out the last 2 company org charts I had saved. Highlighted what had changed. Then I checked the date. Only 3 months since the funeral. 3 months since he stood in the living room, said, "I've got this now," and kissed me on the forehead like I was furniture. I put the folder in my bag, locked it. That night, I sat on the porch with the lights off. The house felt too big, too hollow, too full of someone else's decisions. A raccoon passed through the yard. I didn't move. Then headlights pulled into the driveway. Pamela stepped out. Loud shoes, shopping bags. She didn't see me. She walked inside, turned on every light, hummed to herself. I stayed where I was. Waited until she went to bed. Then I slipped inside and walked past the guest room door. Paused. Listened. Silence. I walked to the study, opened the drawer, and added the org charts to the red notebook. I wrote 1 line under them. "He thinks I won't act." Then I turned off the lamp, left the notebook open, and went to bed. Pamela texted at 7:42 a.m. Brunch. Just us girls. Got something fun to show you. I didn't answer right away. I washed dishes, swept the kitchen, rechecked the notebook I left open the night before. Then I replied, "Sure. What time?" She picked the place. New place. Oversized booths, small portions, lots of mirrors. I arrived 10 minutes early. She walked in 20 minutes late, hair curled, nails done, wide sunglasses like she expected paparazzi. "Sorry, Mom," she said, sitting. "Declan made me change twice." She didn't ask how I was, didn't mention the card, didn't mention the company. Instead, she ordered mimosas and avocado toast. Told me about some influencer who recommended detox gummies. Laughed when the waiter pronounced her name wrong. Halfway through her salad, she leaned forward. "So, I've been thinking about expanding." I stirred my coffee. "We've got that little side lot next to the house, right? I'm thinking a sunroom. You know, something fresh. Declan thinks it'll add resale value." I let her keep talking. "It's a small renovation. Well, the plans are bigger now. Spa tub, skylight, maybe a plunge pool. Nothing crazy. But the bank said it'd be easier if we had one more signer just for show." Then she smiled like it was nothing. I didn't answer right away. She sipped. "I brought the paperwork just in case. You don't have to decide now. Just think about it." She reached into her bag, slid a thin folder across the table. I placed it beside my napkin. We finished eating. She showed me photos on her phone of curtain samples and imported tiles. When the check came, she didn't reach for it. I paid. Quietly. Card still worked. My name, my account, my funds. At the car, she hugged me. "Perfume too strong. Thanks for coming. I know this whole CEO thing's been weird. But we're family." "Right," I nodded. She drove off. I waited until she turned the corner, then got in my own car. At home, I placed the folder on the counter. Didn't open it, just stood and stared. Then I took out my phone, opened the camera, and snapped a photo of the front page. Her signature. A blank line waiting for mine. I flipped the page. Checked the fine print. It wasn't a renovation loan. It was a refinance. Against my property. They'd filed me as a co-applicant. If I signed, they'd gain joint leverage on the title. If I refused, they'd know I was watching. I closed the folder, put it in a drawer with the others. Then I added a line to the notebook. They're not asking. They're assuming. The next morning, the contract was still there on the counter. I made coffee, poured it in Robert's old mug. Pamela walked in wearing silk. No greeting. She glanced at the folder. "Thought you might have signed already." I took a sip. Still thinking. She laughed. "Don't think too long. Contractors book fast this time of year." Then she disappeared upstairs. I picked up the folder, moved it, filed it under attempts. Then I opened the red notebook and circled a date I'd written last week. The day Robert first amended the title. The day I stopped pretending I wasn't watching. I pulled the drawer out too far, and it fell. Papers scattered across the rug. Paper clips. Old receipts. A crumpled, sticky note from years ago with Robert's handwriting. "Call before 2 p.m. Pacific." I knelt, picked up the drawer, and noticed the back panel wasn't flush. A thin line. A crack in the wood like something had been pried once before. I ran my hand along the edge. Tape. I peeled it back slowly. Something tugged. A sealed envelope dropped onto the floor. Thick. Cream stock. Robert's initials pressed into the corner. No label. Just a faint pencil mark across the front. Activate only if misused. I sat down on the floor. Heart, steady hands, not. I opened it. Inside, 3 pages. Typed. Notarized. No signature at the bottom. Just a sticky tab. Sign here only if needed. I read it twice. It was a buy-sell trap. A clause written to be triggered if anyone tried to shift ownership behind Robert's back. The wording was surgical classic Robert. If filed, it would revert his full share of the company temporarily to a voting proxy, me, for 6 months. Enough to halt any sale restructure or majority motion. Enough to freeze everything. It only worked once. And only if certain conditions were met. I flipped to the checklist. Ownership shifted without full disclosure. Original founding partner erased from records. Shared assets reassigned without consent. 3 for 3. The clause was built like a pressure valve. Silent, dormant, airtight. I didn't sign it. Not yet. Instead, I slid the document into a fresh folder, wrote the date, and added it to the red notebook. Then I opened Robert's filing cabinet again. Dug deeper. At the very back, behind years of quarterly reports, I found an old hard drive. No label. Just black plastic, worn edges, dust in the corners. I plugged it into the desktop. A single folder, titled Hold. Inside scans of company meetings memos and one audio file. Robert's voice tired but clear. If you're hearing this, it means something went wrong. I paused. Turned up the volume. I didn't file this clause because I believed in our son. But if he's forced your hand, use it. That's why it's written that way. They won't see it coming. I hit stop. I backed up the audio to my cloud drive, copied the documents again. Then I closed the folder, shut the drawer, and locked the cabinet. That night, I placed the hard drive in my purse. Not for nostalgia, for insurance. When Pamela walked past the office and asked what I was working on, I smiled. Cleaning. She nodded. Smells like dust. I let her keep walking. The next morning, I called the bank, quietly. Asked to review the current title status on the house. Asked for a printout of any recent inquiries. The clerk hesitated, then confirmed Pamela had submitted paperwork. Not yet approved, but pending. I thanked her. Asked her to hold off processing anything new for 72 hours. Then I called the lawyer Robert used for the original charter. His assistant said he was retired, but the records were still archived. I gave my name. She paused, then said, "Oh." Mr. Greer said if you ever called, we were to schedule immediately. I checked my calendar. Today works. I passed the green beans without speaking. Declan reached across me, didn't say, "Excuse me." Just kept talking. His voice carried across the table like a sermon. Second quarter projections are already ahead. We're rolling out the new branch in Phoenix. I closed the deal last week. The others nodded. Family friends, neighbors. A couple from the club I hadn't seen since the funeral. Pamela poured more wine. Declan's been working so hard, he barely sleeps. He smiled like it hurt. Building something real takes sacrifice. Across from me, someone said, "Your father would be proud." Declan leaned back in his chair, lifted his glass. He left it to me for a reason. Laughter, cheers. Forks clinked against plates. I smiled. Not big. Not bitter. Just enough. I cut into my chicken. Chewed slow. Watched him from the end of the table, the seat they gave me like a token. Too far to speak. Close enough to witness. The man beside me leaned in. "Didn't you help start the company I wiped my mouth?" "I did." He nodded like he didn't believe it mattered. "But Declan's the one modernizing it now, right?" I said. They moved on, talked about stocks, patio renovations, someone's daughter going into law school. I drank water. Refused the wine. Pamela tapped her glass with a spoon. "One quick thing before dessert." Everyone quieted. She stood. "I just wanted to thank everyone for supporting Declan this year. It's been hard losing Robert, but Declan stepped up, took control, made things work." She looked at me. "And I know Marlon's still adjusting to retired life, so we're lucky to have her support." Someone clapped. A few smiled politely. I kept mine steady, nodded once. When the plates were cleared, I offered to help. Pamela waved me off. "We've got it, Mom." I stood anyway, carried my own dish to the sink, washed it. Declan stepped in behind me. "Good dinner, right, Ma?" He leaned against the counter. I'm trying, holding things together. You seem confident. I am. Why I dried the plate? Just observing. He watched me a second longer, then left. Upstairs, I opened my closet, took out the fireproof lockbox, set it on the bed, unlocked it. Inside the activation clause, my marriage license, my name on the founding papers first before his, a separate deed to the mountain cabin, untouched, unleveraged. I added the audio recording to a labeled flash drive, placed it inside. I locked the box again, slid it under the bed. Downstairs, laughter rolled through the walls. I listened, counted the voices. Then I opened my nightstand drawer, took out the folder from Mr. Greer's office, fresh notarized copies. I made coffee, sat at the desk, labeled the folder if they push first. I finished half the mug before the house fell silent. Only then did I write the next line in the red notebook. If they think this is over dinner, they've forgotten who taught them to set the table. I answered on the third ring. Marlene. The voice paused. It's Janet, from the old office. I sat down. Hi. She exhaled. I didn't know if I should call, but I think there's something you need to see. I waited. Robert asked me to hold a few things, just in case. My pulse didn't move, but my hand tightened around the phone. Where are they? I still have the key. I can meet you. Somewhere quiet. Today, lunch hour. East Bank Park. By the benches near the fountain. I left without telling anyone. No makeup, no jewelry. Just the folder in my purse and the red notebook zipped into the side pocket. The park was half empty. Children ran near the swings. A jogger passed twice. I spotted Janet by the fountain holding a paper bag. She smiled small and hugged me quick. You look good, she said. I didn't answer. She handed me the bag. Inside a flash drive, one small binder and a key taped to a folded card. He said if anything ever felt wrong, if they tried to shut you out, these were to go straight to you. What's the key for storage locker? Off Elm and 17th. Under the name M. Green. He used my maiden name. Janet hesitated. I didn't look at the files, but I know one of them has audio. His voice. I nodded. Thank you. I miss him. Me too. She left first. I sat there 10 more minutes, then drove straight to the storage facility. It was a small place. Faded numbers. A single keypad gate. The key fit. Inside the locker, a weatherproof box labeled in Robert's handwriting, if they rewrite the story. I brought it home. In my office, I opened it. Inside, meeting transcripts, backup board vote tallies, emails between Robert and 2 former board members, a printed draft titled Contingency Full Reversal Protocol, a voice recording labeled For Marlene Only. I played it. Hey, sweetheart. If you're hearing this, they've done it. Or they're close. I hoped I'd outlive the risk, but if not, you always did read the fine print better than I did. So here's what you need to know. His voice cracked once, then steadied. The clause works. The trust is still active. The votes can be frozen. You just need one more share. I paused the tape. One more share. I flipped through the folder. Found a name I hadn't seen in years. Tom Halperin, a silent investor. Still listed as holding 1.4%. Robert's friend. Old school loyal. No kids. No ties to Declan. I picked up my phone. Searched the number. Still in state. Still alive. Still listed. I copied it down. Folded the paper. Then I pulled out the red notebook and wrote one word across the top of a blank page, Halperin. I met Janet again 2 days later. No phone call. Just a text. You should see this in person. We met outside an old credit union near downtown. She wore a plain coat, sunglasses, no jewelry. She looked like someone delivering a secret. We didn't hug this time. She held out a narrow envelope, yellowed at the edges. He left these in a private safe box. Said not to mention them unless things changed. I went in yesterday. The envelope was thick. Inside, a smaller folder and 3 sealed letters. One had my name, one had the boards, and one was blank. Janet pulled out one more document, single-page notarized, signed by Robert. An amendment. It gave me durable authority over a dormant trust account tied to the company's original bylaws. A clause I hadn't seen. Quiet, unannounced, untouched for over a decade. I didn't even know this existed, she whispered. I took the papers. What are you going to do? Nothing, I said. She blinked. Not yet. At home, I laid the contents out on the dining table. No one else was home. I opened my letter first. It was handwritten. 5 lines. If you're reading this, it means I didn't say goodbye properly. You know how I was. I trust you to do what's right. Just don't wait too long. The truth only works if it's seen. I folded it, pressed it flat, then slid it into the red notebook under the page that said, Halperin. I left the board letter sealed. That one wasn't for today. The blank envelope I held a moment longer. Then I weighed it in my hand, too light for papers. I opened it. Inside, a small key. Attached to it, a tag with a number. I flipped through my files. The tag matched a lockbox number at a small rural bank, one Robert used decades ago when we lived near Ash Creek. I hadn't thought of that place in 20 years. I made an appointment. That night, Pamela asked if I could cover a catering deposit. I said I'd think about it. She left the bill on the counter. I added it to the folder labeled Attempts, just like the last one. In the morning, I packed the letters, the amendment, the red notebook, and the key. I placed them in my bag, zipped it closed, and locked the kitchen behind me. The truth was no longer scattered. It was collected. Now it just needed timing. I found the envelope on the counter. No note, no warning, just a manila folder stamped with the county seal. I opened it. Permit application, residential remodel, property address mine, listed owner Pamela W. Green, listed co-owner Marlene G. Green. My stomach didn't twist. My hands didn't shake. I walked to the copy machine, made 2 sets, filed one into the attempts folder, and slid the original back where she left it. When she came home, she acted like nothing had happened. Asked if I wanted chicken or pasta. I said I already ate. She poured wine. Hope you don't mind. We're planning to open up the kitchen. Declan thinks it'll add resale value. I smiled faintly. You've already filed. She blinked. I thought you'd be okay with it. I didn't answer. She changed the subject. Said something about her friend Carla getting a Tesla. I went upstairs, closed the door, pulled out the red notebook and wrote it down March 9th. Filed permit without discussion. Lists herself co-owner. No signature from me. Then I took the Halperin file out again, rechecked the number, called it. An older voice answered. Halperin. Tom, it's Marlene Green, Robert's wife. Silence, then a warm shift. Well, I'll be damned. Marlene. I haven't heard that name in ages. We spoke for 20 minutes. I told him Robert had passed. Told him Declan was now running the company. Told him Pamela was expanding her role in areas. He laughed once dry and short. I never liked her. I need a favor, I said. You still hold shares? Sure do. Never sold. Robert said to hold them until the dirt settled. I need them, not for me, for what's right. He didn't ask questions, just said, send the papers, I'll sign. That night I didn't eat dinner. I reviewed the permit form again. Pamela had checked owner consents to remodel. She had filled in my name, but the signature line blank. No initials, no witness. I copied that too. The next morning, she asked if I'd thought about helping cover the contractor deposit. I said I'd get back to her. Then I mailed the Halperin documents by express courier. By Friday, I'd have voting control, not just leverage. Enough to freeze a board, enough to stop a sale, enough to revoke a lie. And I'd do it quietly, with paper, not noise. Janet slid the folder across the table. She didn't speak at first, just waited while I opened it. 4 pages. Thick stock. Stamped. Notarized. Every signature in place except mine. Top of page 1, irrevocable veto authority, equity and restructuring rights. My eyes locked on the clause halfway down. This document, when activated by the surviving spouse, grants full veto rights over any transfer, restructure, dilution, or reassignment of voting shares within Green & Cower Holdings for a period not less than 5 years. I looked up. He didn't file it, I asked. Janet shook her head. He said it would be a weapon if they crossed the line, not before. I closed the folder. Declan's filed at least 3 preliminary changes since the funeral, I said. Voting blocks, internal shifts, phantom shares to cover cash flow gaps. Janet nodded. You can override all of it. But once you sign, it's active. Public. What's the filing window? 3 business days. You'd need to hand deliver it or send certified. I ran my fingers across the page. Robert's signature. His writing firm. Confident. Pamela had moved his desk. Declan had removed my name from the website. They had tried to erase the shape of me without checking the shadows. I took the file, folded it once, and placed it in my bag. On the way home, I called Halperin. Signed it, he said. Sent it priority. You'll have it tomorrow. Thank you, Tom. You're doing the right thing. That company wasn't just his. It was both of yours. At home, Pamela stood in the kitchen with a wine glass. She turned, smiled faintly. I talked to the contractor. He can start demo by next week. I poured myself coffee. No, I said. She blinked. Sorry, you're not remodeling this house. Her hand tightened on the glass. I filed the paperwork. I rescinded it. You can't do that. You're not on, I am. She opened her mouth, but I walked past her. In my study, I opened the drawer, took out a pen, signed the clause, dated it. I called Mr. Greer's office. This is Marlon Green. I'm activating the file. Robert left. Silence on the other end. Then understood. We'll prepare the courier. 3 business days. It'll be filed in 2. I hung up. Then I opened the red notebook, drew a thick black line under the word power. Underneath it, I wrote, it was never theirs, just borrowed. Time to collect. I flew to Austin before sunrise. No suitcase. Just a leather folder and the red notebook zipped inside. Howard Greer still used the same office corner suite, 3rd floor, nothing fancy. He met me at the door himself. Marlene. His voice was slower now, but the grip was steady. We sat across from each other. I passed him the veto clause, the Halperin share confirmation, and a copy of the original founding agreement Robert signed in '89. He read in silence, flipped pages fast. When he stopped, he pulled out an older binder from his cabinet, indexed, yellow tags down the side. He opened to the tab labeled Equity. You still own 30%, he said. I didn't blink. They said it transferred. He tapped the page. It didn't. Robert never filed the override. He drafted it but never executed. He pulled another sheet, laid it beside mine. Your signature is missing. Without that, it's void. I exhaled once. Not relief, just air. He looked at me. You can walk into a board meeting tomorrow and freeze every vote. And Pamela. She's not listed anywhere. She's not a shareholder, not a director, not a trustee. She has no rights beyond what Declan gives her, and Declan didn't file a single asset consolidation legally, so she's building on nothing. Greer nodded. I leaned back. What do you want me to do? He asked. Help me prepare a motion. I want full transparency triggered by Robert's clause. I want board copies sent by end of week. He smiled small. You waited longer than I expected. I gave them space. They used it to push me out. He opened a fresh file. I'll need your signature power of execution and mailing preferences. I signed. He paused before sliding the file away. Declan won't see this coming. He doesn't need to, I said. He'll hear it land. Outside, I ordered coffee. Black. No sugar. I called Janet, told her to prepare the staff memo with the clause attached. She didn't ask questions, just said, "I'm proud of you." At home, the house was quiet. Pamela's car was gone. I went to the kitchen, pulled down the contract she left on the fridge. The remodel quote. Her name in thick marker on the top line. I lit a match, burned it in the sink. Then I walked to the garage, pulled down Robert's old lockbox, and started sorting the contents. It was time to return the house and the company to its original balance. Not out of revenge, out of order. I packed in one day. Left the furniture, took the files, the red notebook, and the box Robert marked originals. I didn't tell anyone. Not Declan, not Pamela. Just left a note on the kitchen counter. Forward mail if you can. If not, don't. I drove to Austin, rented a 2-room office near 7th and Trinity. Nothing big. Enough for a desk, a lamp, and a door that locked. I hung no photos. Left the walls bare. Just a single name on the glass, Marlon Green, Strategy and Legacy Advisory. By noon, I had internet. By 2, I had coffee. I pulled out the contact list I'd kept buried for years. 32 names. I called 2. Gwen Harrington answered before the second ring. "Marlon, good God, it's been years. I'm working again. You say the word and I'll shift 2 contracts your way?" "No promises. I go slow now. I don't care how slow you go as long as it's you." We ended the call with laughter. Honest, tired laughter. Second call, Peter Loeb, former CFO of a firm I helped save in 2003. "I thought you were out," he said. "I thought so too. I've got something. Quiet, not public yet." "Want to look?" "Yes," I said. I spent the next 3 hours reviewing it. Numbers still made sense to me. Gaps still leapt off the page. Strategy came back like muscle memory. At 5, I locked up. Walked 2 blocks. Ate a simple dinner. No noise, no expectations. In the apartment above the office, I unrolled the rug Robert used to keep in his den. Set the coffee pot on the counter. Placed 1 mug in the cupboard. Still here, it read. The next morning, I sent a notice to the county. New address. New point of contact. I copied the filing to Greer. Then I drafted a memo. 1 line effective. Immediately, all communications regarding Green & Co. Holdings equity or restructuring must be directed to my office in Austin. MGI blind, copied Declan. No warning, no smile. Just the sound of a door closing and another one opening. I didn't advertise. Didn't buy listings, didn't post updates. Just answered when the phone rang. The first switch came on a Monday. Greer forwarded me a message from Kellen Price, one of Declan's mid-tier accounts. "He's asking if you're available," Greer said. Didn't say why. I told him yes. Kellen called the next morning. "You helped my father 20 years ago. I know who really built Green & Co. I'd like to move our file." I didn't ask about Declan. I accepted. Sent over a clean contract. No fanfare. The second came through Gwen. "You won't believe who just called me," she said. Martin Finnegan said he's been trying to get a meeting with Declan for weeks. Never replies. He asked if I knew anyone more. Grounded. I smiled. Send him my way. Martin's voice hadn't changed. Still clipped, precise, blunt. "I want someone who doesn't talk brand strategy before basic cash flow." "You still do cash flow." I start with it. He sent a transfer form that afternoon. The third took me by surprise. A courier showed up at my office. A red folder, no note. Inside, the full account file for Langham Logistics, one of our oldest clients. I flipped to the last page. A sticky note read, "She listens. You don't." Declan's initials had been crossed out. Mine were printed at the bottom. I didn't reach out. I didn't gloat. I just filed the contracts and went back to work. Janet texted that night. 3 gone. Declan's rattled. "You didn't say a word." I replied with a period. Just 1. The next morning, Pamela called. I didn't answer. I brewed coffee. Sat on the floor with my files. Rechecked numbers. In silence, the contract spoke louder than I ever had. The email arrived at 2:12 a.m. Subject urgent, home sale authorization. No greeting, no context. Just, we've decided it's time to sell. Please sign and return attached form today. Escrow already contacted. The PDF was clean, almost. My signature appeared at the bottom, neatly forged. Not sloppily, but not right either. The date off by a week. The notary listed retired 2 years ago. I didn't reply. I saved the file, renamed it Attempt 14, and dropped it into a private folder, Forgery Holds. Then I opened my encrypted line and called Greer. He picked up on the second ring. I'm guessing this isn't about coffee. I forwarded the document. He whistled low. They're getting bold. They're getting sloppy, I said. I'll have our forensic team print it, timestamp it, archive it. Prepare to file a preliminary freeze on the deed. Done. I sat back. For weeks, I'd let their silence mount. Their panic trickle through in small ways, confused calls from staff, unsigned invoices, last-minute requests for guidance that went unanswered. But this wasn't panic. This was theft. Pamela had always mistaken politeness for weakness. She thought silence meant surrender. Now she'd see what it really meant. By noon, Greer's team sent me a draft temporary hold on sale or transfer. Property 3119 Hawthorne Lane. Filed under suspected fraud, forged documentation, and identity misuse. I signed. Sent it back. They filed by 3:00. At 4:17 p.m., Pamela emailed again. Just one word. Why I didn't respond. I printed her forged form, laid it beside a copy of my real signature, highlighted the difference. Then I slid it into an envelope marked to be opened in court if needed. I locked it in the drawer and opened a clean page in my red notebook. I walked in through the side entrance. Quiet shoes, dark dress. Hair pulled back. The ballroom glittered. Crystal chandeliers. Too much gold. Declan's taste, not Robert's. I stayed in the shadows near the last row of chairs, watched them toast themselves. Declan stood at the podium. Flashbulbs caught the lines on his face. 40 years ago, he began, my father had a vision, and today we carry it forward with innovation, boldness, and unity. They clapped. Pamela stood near the front, smiling like it was her crown. Declan raised his glass. To the next chapter. The screens behind him flickered. At first, just a glitch. Then the background faded. A new slide appeared. White text. Robert's letterhead. Then his words filled the room. This company began with my wife. She was there at the first draft, the first deal, the first sleepless night. If she is ever disrespected, undermined, or erased, I trust she will act. And when she does, I ask the board to remember Green & Co. has always been hers, too. Gasps rippled. Pamela's glass tilted. Declan turned. His smile dropped. The second screen lit up my name, followed by a legal clause, Veto Power Equity Oversight Permanent Board Access. The letter faded into a board memorandum. Signed 3 days ago. Filed with the county registrar. I stepped forward. No microphone, no need. I stopped at the edge of the stage. Looked at Declan. 40 years ago, your father asked me to build something with him, I said. I never asked for credit, but I won't let you bury me in his place. I turned to the board. Effective tonight, I am exercising my rights. Silence. Then one board member stood, applauded. Another followed. Pamela whispered something to Declan. His hands stayed frozen on the podium. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to. The first article hit by sunrise. Founder's widow reveals hidden control over Green & Co. By noon, 3 more followed. Some got the facts wrong. Most didn't. They called me reclusive, calculated the silent force behind the empire. I didn't comment. The stock dipped 6 points in the first hour. By end of day 8. Pamela wiped her socials. Deleted comments. scrubbed photos. Declan gave a statement. We're investigating internal sabotage and inappropriate data manipulation. He said I'd hacked the system, that someone had altered Robert's files. I sent the board my copy of the clause stamped notarized, dated 3 years before Robert died. I attached the original envelope. The backup Greer held. The county record from last week, receipts. They issued a second statement. Calmer. A legal clarification is underway. All parties are cooperating. I didn't. I stayed in Austin, answered no calls, worked quietly. Peter Loeb sent a single line. Beautiful execution. Gwen mailed a card. About time. Janet brought flowers to the office. Yellow, sharp, alive. I kept working. Cleared my inbox. Finalized Langham's pivot plan. Signed a 3-month strategy review for Finnegan's expansion. Then I walked 2 blocks and bought myself a coat. The air was turning, not cold, just sharp enough to remind me things shift. I held the receipt a second longer than needed, folded it twice, kept it. That night, I opened the red notebook, wrote 2 words. Phase 2. I booked the room. Same one they'd used to push me out. Same carpet, same lights, same water pitchers. This time I brought my own chair. Folded metal. No padding, no apologies. The board filed in, no greetings, tight mouths. Some didn't make eye contact. I placed the file in front of me. Waited. Declan walked in last. Tie askew, jaw locked. He sat at the head. Tried to speak. I raised one hand. This is a shareholder-led session. Majority stake required for any override, which I hold. He froze. I'm here to present the following proof of non-compliance suppression of fiduciary records and attempted fraud through forged documents. I opened the folder. First page, Pamela's forged co-ownership form. Second, the permit application for a remodel on property she never owned. Third, the false amendment Declan claimed was filed. I didn't look up. We'll now vote on the reinstatement of chair authority to its original designation as outlined in Robert Greene's founding charter, attached in Exhibit D. No one spoke. Janet, seated behind me, handed out the ballots. One by one, hands moved. 5-4. 2 abstain. Declan voted last. He paused, wrote quickly, folded it. Janet read them. Motion passed. I stood. Moved to the front. The chair waited, still warm from his seat. I didn't sit, just rested my hand on the backrest. I'll send minutes by end of day, I said. And with that, I walked out. He came to Austin. No warning, no call. Walked into the lobby like he owned it, like time hadn't passed. I looked up from my desk. Didn't rise. He stood with both hands gripping the chair across from me. I want to fix this, he said. I waited. I'm not here to fight. I've made mistakes. Big ones. I still didn't speak. He reached into his coat, pulled out a draft agreement. I'm willing to co-lead, co-CEO, split the board responsibilities. We could rebuild together. He set it on the desk, too carefully, like it mattered. I opened the drawer, pulled out a single form, no branding, no gloss, just text. Entry-level consultant, 6-month trial. He stared at it, didn't blink. You're joking. I slid it forward. I'm your son. I nodded, and he looked down. Read it again, mouth tightened. No title, I said nothing. No office. Still nothing. He laughed, one of those sharp, dry laughs that never reaches the eyes. Then he looked at me for real. You're not giving me a second chance. You're burying me, I finally answered. You already did that to yourself. This is just me stepping out of the dirt. He didn't sign. He didn't tear it either. He folded it, pressed the crease, slipped it into his coat pocket, then left. The door clicked behind him. I turned back to my screen. I unlocked the old door. The hinges still creaked. Same dust lines on the window frame. Same dent in the side cabinet. I stood in the center, let the silence settle. Then I opened the drawers, file by file, one by one. I sorted, shredded, kept. Invoices from 1986, client notes from 93, a postcard from Robert dated 2 weeks after we launched the firm. I packed slowly. No rush, no one waiting. Just me and the past. The box-filled binders. Thumb drives old notebooks with curled corners. Then I paused, reached for the top drawer, pulled out the black velvet pouch. Inside, Robert's pen. The one he used to sign the original incorporation papers. The one he dropped the day Declan was born. I set it gently on the desk. Next, the charter. Worn, yellowed. Smelled like ink and air conditioning. I slid it into a clear sleeve. Laid it next to the pen. Last, I opened my personal folder. Pulled out a single sheet. Handwritten. Dated last week. To the future CEO. This company cost us everything and gave us more. Remember where it began. And why. I signed it. Folded it. Slipped it into an envelope. Wrote in blue ink to be opened only after first crisis. Taped it shut. Set it beside the others. 3 items. That's all I left. I turned off the lights. Carried the box to the elevator. Pressed the button. When the doors closed, I didn't look back. I poured the coffee. No rush. No noise. Just the drip, the weight, the steam. I stepped outside. Sat on the porch. Let the morning hit my skin. Birds stirred low in the branches. The mug warmed both hands. Simple. Ceramic. White letters fading across the side. Still here. I didn't check the time. Didn't open email. Didn't unlock the front gate. The world could wait. The phone buzzed once, then again. I didn't move. Voicemail caught it. Another call. Then another. Same number. I finally turned the screen over. Declan. No message. I sipped slowly. Set the mug down. Watched the ripples fade. My name was back on the charter. The house was back under my control. The silence. It wasn't punishment anymore. It was peace. I reached for the small key in my pocket. The one that opened the lockbox under the porch. Tomorrow, maybe. Not today. Today I drink my coffee.